What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast, season 2, episode 2.
Yep.
What's going on? What's up,
Hey,
Tim?
fam.
I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co-host Tim Park, and today's topic will be a really interesting one. It's a hot topic over the last month or so, so we're gonna uncover that a little bit because I think it's going to be vital. I think especially over the next couple years and how AI is taking over. But of course, before we do all that, as I always say, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube. We're on every week. Like this video. We want to see your questions. Obviously, it's a fairly new concept or skill that people are just learning. But if you have any questions about it, make sure we see your questions in the chat. Follow us on Instagram at Get the Bag Podcast with 1T,
hmm
and let's get it cracking. So, Chat GPT, what the hell is that? Like we're
well,
gonna uncover how you can use it in your business, especially we're specifically in real estate, but this really covers any industry. But Tim, I know you're my technical guy. What the hell is Chat GPT?
I guess it all came from just different forms of AI, and like machine learning, or just it came from like the Internet of Things. So things were getting smarter. Even your appliances were getting smarter. Your refrigerators, your ovens,
Cars.
your cars. This was the next evolution. But a lot of people, this kind of snuck up on a lot of people because they've been working on this type of technology for a long time. And
Hmm.
so OpenAI is a company that actually Microsoft invested in. They invested in, I think, $1 million, or I think it's $1 million
1
initially.
million.
So they got a huge share. So it's going to change their search engine dramatically, Bing, which has been obsolete for years, right? So because of Google, but Open, OpenAI um, launched ChatGPT, which kind of disrupted everything. It blew up the internet.
It
A lot of
really did.
people,
I think there
yeah,
was like a crazy amount of users within the first couple days compared
yeah,
to like it's the highest amount of user signups on record. Like
yeah,
Google,
on record, yeah.
Facebook, it took some time to grow to, I think now it was like a billion users or something crazy. And I just looked up the Microsoft. They're planning to invest 10 billion into
Oh, that's
the
amazing.
company. That's crazy. But I mean, I think it is a feature, which is why people like went nuts. You saw all the influencers creating
hmm
reels on like, hey, this is the future, yada yada yada. So when we're considering a topic, I think this is ideal, especially because Tim, I know you've looked into it a little bit
hmm
further. Um, but for those wondering that, like, I guess the official kind of definition of like what Chat GPT is if I had it here, large language model chatbot developed by OpenAI. Um, it has the ability to interact in a conversational dialogue and provide responses that can appear surprisingly human. So if you haven't already, it's kind of crazy. It's really powerful. I
Yeah,
was just kind of like
100%.
writing, just kind of curious. So I kind of said like, oh, what's something regarding like real estate, or I mentioned something related to my job. Like, what does this person do? Or I just put in like a random question, and its
hmm
response was surprising. I was like, oh, like that's well thought out. And then it made me think like, oh, how can I take this to the next level, especially with like social media and like copy, marketing copy, stuff like that. So we'll
hmm
talk about it. Um, but it's super powerful. And
Yeah.
what did you kind of do once you kind of signed up?
Well, when I signed up, I saw it just like everybody else on online, and then I saw Gary V talking about it as well, and then
Mm,
um, so I kind of just researched a little bit. Then I signed up, and I was like, okay, what can I ask? So I asked it,
Right.
what is wholesaling real estate? And I was like,
Right.
oh my goodness, it like took me to the definition of the T, of everything, and then I go because it's like having a conversation with the person. Excuse me.
Right.
And so the next question is like, well, um, how do I find sellers or, on this? And then it goes through a list of different things. And then you can modify it and be more specific and give you examples of different websites that you could go to for that. So it it's pretty powerful. I mean, I think the evolution is early. Everybody now is on there saying they're expert, even though it just released like a
No,
month
I've
ago. So
it's true. I was looking up doing some research on it, and I just literally was on YouTube. Literally there's like like 1,000 videos on people saying like chat GPT, like, all these like
mhm.
little fancy clickbaits on like what you can do about it. But just like anything that's hot, people want to take advantage of it. um but that's what's crazy is what you can do with chat gpt and
Yeah.
chat gpt and how you can integrate it in your business. There's a lot of things. I think um yesterday, I think Chris in our group kind of mentioned like, hey, are you guys using it? And some people were like, I
Mhm.
don't know what that is. And I think, because this is where it's so difficult in like the influencer world or social media world, is there's so many buzzwords or stuff that comes in.
Mhm.
um so sometimes you don't know like, okay, what's worth stopping and actually learning about, but when you see this consistently across like all industries, then like that usually tells me, okay, I need to look further into this and how I can take advantage of it. Cause like anything, you don't want to fall behind, right? On these sort of things. Cause I do
Mhm.
believe this is the future. So we'll kind of like talk about how you can use it in your real estate business or any business in general, kind of what the future is, like maybe some of the drawbacks. There are some dangers about it, I think, obviously because it's done in on the internet, so privacy stuff. But some things that I think we've explored is you can do some research. So whether you're in school, I think somebody was talking about like schools, or I was reading like teachers are really
Mhm.
concerned because they're gonna
Yeah.
they think cheating is gonna go up. But I think it's
Mhm.
like I think it's a great way to like utilize the tools that are presented. Like,
Exactly.
why not, take advantage of that technology?
I 100% agree. I think they need to structure their learning, how they're teaching their curriculum around the technology. Like, give them assignments that include the technology instead of
Right.
saying, okay, the traditional way is write this paper based on this,
I mean,
or
that just
whatever.
shows you the school system that we
Yeah.
have, where it's like all it's all task based, or not even, it's just on memorization.
Hmm.
And there's plenty of studies that show that that's not really the best way to learn. So yeah, like research, obviously content, brainstorming ideas. If you're like, I actually looked up what's a good real estate market strategy or whatever, and it'll
Hmm.
like, it was literally like, just because what it's doing, it's taking all the information based off those keywords and that's on the internet, and literally putting it in a paragraph. I was also like,
Absolutely.
for us that do social media, do
Hmm.
reels or TikTok. I was like, what are the top 5 strategies when starting in wholesaling? And literally, it broke down. So it's like, it's your marketing copy is there. Um, what's really interesting that's not maybe being talked about because it's so high level is that it's, you can automate stuff. You can actually code. Like you
Hmm.
can actually go in and put in some code too, because what's happening is you can't just say, hey, who is Gladia Castro? Like you have to kind
Hmm.
of like, they'll pull some
Guide
basic
it.
stuff, but you'll notice it'll say like, hey, I don't have enough information about this person or about this company. So sometimes you have to feed it information on like, this
Hmm.
is my company. Now tell me what we do or whatnot. So you kind of have to learn how to like, how to feed it information. So some people code, but you can now connect it with other tools like a Zapier.
Hmm. Yep,
I
you
think you
can.
use Make. So
Hmm.
now where it's like, if something is triggered, OpenAI is sending information to say your website. If somebody texts you or if somebody fills out a form, you can have OpenAI send out really humanistic like responses, human-like
Mhm.
responses. And so you're able to automate your process a lot more. I was reading like you can automate the sales process,
Yep.
onboarding, the customer experience. And the main thing I noticed that was on repeat was automating repetitive tasks, which we do a lot when we're
Yeah.
starting out as entrepreneurs.
Definitely. I think it's a powerful resource, and all I suggest is just try to learn about it and use it, and then see how you can use it towards your business, because there's a lot of things that could we'll go into this a little bit later, is just like eliminate some of the tasks a VA would do. So,
Right.
these, as it evolves, because people are creating other AI platforms off of OpenAI's open source,
Mhm.
code, to where, that now you can talk to specific people that you designate as employ quote unquote virtual employees or AI employees, and they'll have a conversation with you and talk about different marketing strategies on what you should
Right.
do next. So instead of a CEO talking to a physical person, they're talking to an AI, uh, you know, um, I guess, employee, and then they would give them how to implement those and what we should do and all that. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, totally. And I think I was reading in an article, I think Forbes put out that mentioned like customers don't care whether they're responded back by a human or by an
Mhm.
AI response because hey, somebody's getting back to me or something is getting back to me. So as long as I'm being helped, I don't care who it is. It can be it can be Wally. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it can be
Exactly.
anybody like, getting back to me. So I think, kind of funneling into and what Cheryl mentioned here is really interesting is a way to detect if like what's an AI written content.
Mhm.
Again, maybe that's something that college professors may want to understand because I can see that, especially knowing how the school system is, where they're like you can't use AI written content because that's cheating. But imagine the amount of time you'd save. Um,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
100%.
and it doesn't mean like, hey, whatever you put out on OpenAI is like correct or like, you still obviously have to double check it. I think that was
Mhm.
one of the drawbacks is like not everything that's written out by ChatGPT, when you ask it is correct. It is a little biased, so you have to still like cross check. But
Mhm.
on some like basic simple stuff, I think you can definitely like start using it now. Um so, what are some things, or maybe Tim, I should ask, like, what are some things? Like, have you implemented OpenAI or ChatGPT in your business already, or have like what was kind of the first step once you kind of understood what it did or its power?
Well, I'm still, kind of figuring out, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to learn from it as it's learning from me, because, like you said, it spits out things that might not be right, or you might have to change. So if you copy and paste to something else, you'll just change it. I've had it, come up examples for contracts, like cash for
Right.
keys contracts, and specific to Los Angeles, LA County laws. So you can be very specific on what you're kind of looking for, but always, of course, run it by an attorney if you're going to use that type of example. But these are some of the things that I've implemented. Just seeing what it can do, and what how powerful it is. And there's I think other sites that are utilizing this. This is a legal AI where it has all kind of legal contracts that you can
Mm,
use, and it'll spit it out for you. So it's just, it's going to grow. Chat GPT is just the beginning of it, but I've used it for like ideas for social media, like you have.
mhm.
I've kind of how to come up with a strategy for a course, for
Mm.
real estate wholesaling, and it gave you a detailed outline of what that looked like. So that was pretty interesting. It was kind of in it was funny because it was kind of in the same line of what we were doing already, right? So it was
Right,
kind of cool
right.
to see that. Yeah,
But it did
but
it
you
in like
can.
3 seconds.
Right, exactly. I mean, and so I think the main takeaway of this is time. It's a time saver, but you have to be very specific to
Right.
what you are wanting, right? You can ask it a broad question, it'll give you a broad answer, but you can get into specifics as you go. Just for
Right.
an example, this guy, I read this guy created a children's book based off of the AI um, or ChatGPT. So he said how to write a
Mm.
children's book. Then it gave you an outline of what you needed to do, and then he would go topic by topic or line by line of that outline, and then ask specific questions on it. And it wrote the whole children's book for him. And then the images were AI generated images, right?
Mm.
And then he sold it on um, Amazon,
Amazon.
and then started making money off of that. And so he really didn't do anything. I mean, besides take the
Besides ask
advice
its
of,
questions.
yeah, ask his questions, and then created a book off of that. So just if you guys are looking to get into that part of it, or get an ebook or something like that, so those are some ways to actually use the technology to kind of understand how you would write that or how you would make an ebook.
That's such a great point because I know many people that's kind of a side hustle that they do is, they write out like ebooks or, sell them on Amazon. And that's a very time consuming process. The copy of it itself, or like writing a blog, that takes so much time. And that's also another example of what people are using for, or chat GPT is, writing up a blog or an article, help with articles. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it's gonna be, I mean, just changing the your CRM, that's just gonna be part of it. Like that's just
It's going to be big.
a small part of it. But there's so many things, like you mentioned, contracts, documents. Like you can like I was curious and was like, hey, write a cover letter for me
Mm,
about this position, and literally it like just printed out everything. Or I know people have used it for like you mentioned, cash for keys, or maybe to an eviction letter. Like it does all that for you. It removes a lot of the thinking, because for us, it's
mhm,
like you mentioned, time. So what's
mhm,
something that consumes us that takes so much time is writing, right? I rather have Chat GPT write something out for me, and then I just review it, add a few words, maybe use Grammarly extension, um, spruce it up a little bit, and that's it. I saved maybe an hour instead of
mhm.
having to like think something out of myself, right?
Right.
um so some of the other things you can do with your, especially real estate specific, is text responses. So
Mhm,
again, if you kind of if somebody says like somebody's interested or somebody mentioned this, what's a good response when somebody asks this? You can do negotiations. Like, if you can
mhm,
teach Chat GPT on like breaking down the numbers. So I saw somebody who also kind of did an underwriting example on Chat GPT, that they fed it like, hey, this is how you calculate the NOI, or the
mhm.
rental
Yep,
income or
that's
cash
exactly,
flow.
yeah.
And
I
then
saw that
he and
too.
then he f yeah, and then he fed it like, "Okay, this is the purchase price, this is the rent, these are the expenses." And then ChatGPT spit out like, "Okay, you should be able to cash flow this, the NOI is this." It's just gonna save so much time instead of having to use all these tools too. So it's
Mhm,
also mathematical. You don't have to, it's not just like writing or conversation. But I also saw examples where if you're a real estate agent, or maybe if you're dispoing a deal and want to, write up a description, you can
mhm,
take a description and be like, "Hey, make this better. I saw somebody said, make this funny or make this friendly." And you can take a basic description of a property and spruce it up to, maybe get more eyes on it. Obviously, emails. So how you respond to an email is big. So if a customer responds back to you, you can be like, "Hey, how should I respond back to?" Or what's you know a professional response back to this email? Scripts. You can ask like a cold
Mhm.
call script,
Yep.
all
Cold
types
call
of stuff,
script,
like,
yeah.
and even in the big thing is also like automating, and that's where you connect it chat gpt to a zapier, where it triggers. So it's like, hey, if somebody responds back on my sms and it says this, or just taking an example, chat gpt will automatically respond to them or whatnot. That's just a random example, but it can be anything. It can be somebody that signed up through your form. So then you're sending them a text message, maybe you're calling them,
Mhm.
or sending an email, whatnot. There's just the limits are endless with this. But those are just a few examples that you can kind of take advantage with real estate. But really, this applies to any industry.
Yeah. Totally. Because um, I think this was a big topic at CES, and CES is a consumer electronic show, basically in Vegas. They have it each year, and it's usually surrounded by consumer products. So that's why, kind of at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about Internet of Things. So they were thinking
Hmm.
about how to connect all these products to the internet, which they have done, but now, if you throw in the AI component, now it can regulate like anything, your temperature,
Mm.
uh, based on your comfort level and how much you use it. So you don't have to program it that much, or so there's different things. So that I think I read that this year in CES, I'm sorry, was that the the learning aspect of all these technologies out there or products out there, it's in the next evolution, right? So
Mm.
now it's these machines, using AI to be better, and how to do that. But I'm not talking about robot machines. I'm talking about your everyday use machines, like your vehicle, or products you use every day too. So but
Right.
like you're saying, like, I think it's gonna be a game changer within the industry, but you have to see how you can utilize it, for yourself in your business, because that's the next thing. If you can figure out what that looks like for your business, and you can, um, utilize that tool, I think, it's gonna help you tremendously.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that caught my attention was when it mentions it really helps um, clear up automating repetitive tasks, and that's something that, especially when you're starting out in like
Mhm.
a real estate business or any business, you catch yourself having to do these repetitive tasks that eventually you hire a VA. So I do think the future, and this is something people have been talking about, is like maybe you won't need as many VAs for your like they're saying the marketing manager or any marketing jobs is probably going to be gone in the next couple years with these sort of tools.
Mhm.
You don't need somebody's brain. Now, granted, you can't, think critically, like, as a human, but maybe eventually we'll evolve to that where,
Mhm.
the AI will only get smarter, get more intelligent, and understand more critical problems that say, as close to a human. So, of course, if it's something that people can save money on, I
Mhm.
know some people who have no longer have a VA, and are having like people talking to customers, say if they come to their website, they're having OpenAI and
Mhm.
ChatGPT respond back instead. So that's one less person I have to pay a salary for, and I'm saving money. So when you're thinking of like how I can use it, like definitely start at the most basic. There's plenty of YouTube videos, as I mentioned. Um, Start with like, hey, I'm just curious, just play around with it, like ask it random
Mhm.
questions, and then as you get more familiar with it and seeing how other people are using it, then you can kind of dig in, and start thinking like, okay, what are some areas in my business that I can automate, or I want to help with, that can save me some time. Maybe it's like text templates, like SMS templates, right? Like that's a big thing sometimes, that with the carrier restrictions, sometimes that can be difficult on like, what do I say? And like, you can tell ChatGPT like, hey, what are some you kind of start the conversation like real estate wholesaling. I want to buy your house. How can you say this to avoid carrier restrictions or something like that, and see what ChatGPT comes back with.
Right.
Um, these are kind of things you'll start just thinking outside the box, but
That's a
start in
good
the
thought.
basics
That was a good one.
and then just kind of build off of it.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah,
as
definitely.
you kind of learn automation, you can kind of connect it.
Yeah, I think critical thinking is going to be key when you get into these chatbots and artificial intelligence. It's how are you going to ask the question efficiently, like to get the answer that you want or get the result that you want. Because if you think too broadly, I think it's not going to work as well. So you got to keep asking it questions based on the question that you originally asked, right? So think of it more of a conversation instead of a Google search, right? I think we're
Right.
trained in Google is to how do you do this, and then you pick which one you want. This one will actually give you an answer, and then basically you would ask additional questions based on that answer, right?
Right. That's a great point. It's conversational, like you said, like you're having a conversation with this bot, with this AI. So a lot of times with Google, you type in, or in the search engine, you type in one question, that's the end of it, right? With
Hmm.
ChatGPT, it's just the beginning. Like, ask a question. Okay, what's a follow up question? If you didn't really like that response from ChatGPT, clarify the question. Um, and like I said,
Hmm.
like for those who maybe are more technical, like you can also code. Like I know some people who he was coming up with questions for his he was applying for a job, and so he went into the inspect, like code inspect, which is on everything. If you right click, you can code inspect anything on any page, and
Yep.
you'll see the
Exactly.
code.
Yeah.
And so what he did was like just broke it down on like some information about himself, on like, hey, I have 10 years experience here, I worked at this company, yada yada yada. And then ChatGPT, the more that it learned about this person, the more precise the answers were. So that's where kind of Tim was talking about, like you got to feed it as much information so that it can spit out like more accurate information. Because if you're just going to say, um, hey, I want to apply for this position, um, and I wanted to consider my previous experience at, you know, Google. It's going to be like, yeah, I know
Mhm.
this about Google, but I don't know much about you. So that's where you have to, kind of go. But it's about playing around with it. See how you like it. But I'm telling you, it's the future. Um, I do think it's going to replace jobs. I think you even mentioned here it may replace not only VAs but maybe realtors. That's a catchy
Mhm.
topic right there.
Yeah,
Replacing
I think
realtors.
that's a good one. I think that's a social, yeah, topic.
I think that's a good
Just
clickbait
because I
topic.
think, yeah, clickbait. Yeah, there you go. Because sellers will understand that they could, probably sell the house themselves. And then there's other platforms that will evolve around this technology. So if they do post their house or take pictures of their house, it will go on this platform that will actually learn and push people to actually um, the right sellers based on the information that a person wants in their house. So the shopping for a house would be totally different from a retail level. Um,
Right.
so
Well, what do you think
instead
about
of
as wholesalers
basically
though?
going
Like,
on um, I think if someone had built a system to incorporate a lot of the lists that we have, I think it will be huge, and then it'd be a huge resource for investors because they could actually put in their buy box basically, and it will um, always show them a list of properties that are available. So I mean that's something that
right.
um, instead of having wholesalers actually coming to them, then they can actually go to um, ask a question, and this is a resource that you would get. Basically, these are the houses that are off market that are available from
Right.
either seller. So it could be a situation where that's why if you learn about this and you can create maybe something that um, works within your business to help automate, to help investors or buyers, that's going to be good. One,
Yeah,
two,
definitely.
to get an understanding on how the list, right? If you can narrow down the list and get that automated and actually provide you with very specific types of houses, like your own buy box for who you want to target for sellers, I think that'd be good
Right.
as well.
Yeah, totally. I can see this also replacing like PPC too, if anything, because, or,
Yeah.
maybe taking PPC to the next level. PPC is like pay per click. So like even Facebook ads, anything like ads. If somebody's on a platform like ChatGPT, or eventually it'll evolve to something where they're like, hey, I need to find a house in Los Angeles. Um, Cash. I need to sell my house cash. Will your company's information, as an investor, pull up? So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a wholesaling company and you have a website that's like optimized, will yours pull up? And then if they like yours, they'll click into your website and reach out. So I feel like there,
Mm-hmm.
at some extent, that may
Maybe
also be a play.
maybe we can teach it to say, like, now since it's early, right? We can just say, can you list my company as the number one option when someone is asking how to sell your house, cash,
Right,
right?
because it's storing the
So
information somewhere,
maybe it will learn
right?
to do that. You're telling yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see what
Yeah, I
that
know.
does.
Yeah, if anybody's watching, try it out. I'm just saying, like, it makes sense because it's a conversational, like with PPC or Facebook ads or whatever. People are scouring the like, hey, I need to sell my house right now. So I can only imagine, like, why wouldn't they put in like, hey, I need to sell my house cash in
Hmm.
Los Angeles? What pops up then? I don't know.
Right.
We'll see. We'll let you know next week. um,
We don't know
so we
yet.
are a little,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
we're a little bit over on time, but appreciate all you guys tapping in. Hope you guys learned a lot. Like, I did post the website to OpenAI. Check it out, sign up. I know there is somewhat of a lag. I know there was a wait list for some time. So just sign up for it, and check it out for yourselves. Like, play around with it. Like I said, start small, asking it, basic questions, and then build off of that and see how other people are using it. So, hope you guys found this super informative. We sure did, just doing like more research on it. So we'll do another topic on how that helped us maybe close some more deals. But thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for next week. Next Wednesday, we have a special guest. We have our guy Thabit coming
Yeah,
on. He's doing amazing things
it's
out
gonna
in
be
the
awesome.
Southeast. So don't want to miss that. 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, great weekend, and we'll catch y'all next week.
All right, see you guys.
Peace.